Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it. We'll talk about it inside. All right. Hello, scrappers. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. We hope that you're doing well. Enjoyed some of these quick price bursts that we saw the last few days with copper prices, which, of course, we're going to get into. But don't forget, we have a contest going on until the end of the month where you can win a free DeWalt package. I actually have a couple of things here that we're going to be giving away, and we have more that are coming down the pipeline. So you can see that stack behind me. That's meant to be given away. And how can you get that? By following all of our different social media sites, by interacting with us. We have more information. The link is below. This way you can see what qualifies you for an entry. So check that out. Let's get right into things. Let's jump right into some of the ongoings that have happened in the copper world over the last week. Now, what do I say all the time? Lots and lots of things I say, right? I talk a lot. I like stability in the markets. Copper prices in the last 7 days, if you add up all the ups and down changes, were over 50 cents per pound. Generally, on a week-to-week basis, I don't like that to be more than 15 to 20 cents. Why do I say that? Price goes up 3 cents, down 2 cents, up 1 penny, down 3 pennies. But what is that? Small little bites, and you have a level, steady market. When copper prices rocket up 9 cents, 8 cents, like we saw, that's a problem. Do we have that screen up? So look at the trading numbers here from the last. Can you make that 1 month instead of 6 months, please? Look at the last month of copper, and then let's even narrow it down to the last week, Virginia. Look at the markets. We started a week ago around 405. We jumped up, and yes, Monday's trading topped out at 415. So that's 10 cents up. Right now, we're trading back at 405. That's another 10 cents. But then we had different levels of market movement the last few days. These are things that make scrapyards weary. And I'll tell you what I did at my scrapyard. Last week, we saw the prices go up. I increased my prices 10 to 15 cents per pound on coppers. Monday morning, after the market had gone up again on Friday, I said, if these prices hold, I had already told my staff we're going to increase prices again. Well, the market immediately went down, right? It went up to 415 and then it shot down within 30 minutes, to like 410, 408, and now it's dipped down since. That makes it hard for scrapyards just have those quick pricing bursts, but that's where iScrap comes in, where you can see where the 30-day averages are by checking out the metals online, Bear Bright number 1 tubing, etc. And that's where learning about these market movements help you make more money in the long term. And speaking of making more money, we read a bunch of comments this week about skipping the middleman and selling material directly to smelters or to processors. And I want to touch on that because I've talked about it before, but it's been a while. So we've seen people saying, hey, how do we skip the scrapyard and go to a mill or a larger buyer, right? Now, personally, I do sell to mills. I generally go through brokers just as a layer of protection. But I know that all the mills that I deal with would never accept anything less than 20,000 pounds of one particular item. 20,000 pounds of number 1 tubing, number 2, yellow brass, etc. We're only talking non-ferrous here. Those mills generally don't pay for 30 days. So think about this. Think about how hard it would be to even get there. So let's say you accumulate 20,000 pounds, and today you could sell it to the scrapyard at $3 a pound, and that's $60,000. But maybe you could sell it to a mill and get $3.15. 15 extra cents on 20,000 pounds is $3,000. Here's the hook. You're not going to be paid for 30 business days, even if they would accept it from you. And 30 business days is 6 weeks. So you're saying from today 6 weeks from now, you won't be paid. And that's what scrapyards do all of the time. They send stuff out. They don't get paid 4, 6, 8 weeks, depending on the terms. And that would be a real hindrance for many scrappers who are looking for that money. That's why when you go to the scrapyard, you unload, you get a receipt, you get paid, the transaction's done. And I've learned over the years that a bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush, especially if you don't have the cash flow to make that stuff move. And if you had saved up 20,000 pounds, how many times along the way would you have been able to sell at a higher level than the $3 or $3.15? And that's why tracking the markets and learning about the markets through our blogs, through our videos that we've been creating since 2011 and are on YouTube, those are things that show you in and out, in and out, in and out. And when you can do that, it allows you to spin your money faster, have it flow better for you, and it makes more sense. So the part-time scrappers, this is something that I highly suggest not even touching or looking into. You might be able to negotiate with your scrapyard where, let's say it's 15 cents higher to sell it to a mill. Now, mind you, no mill is going to answer the phone to a random person and say, "Oh, John Smith, you're looking for a price on 20,000 pounds of copper? I'd love to give that to you." They have no history. They have no information on you. No one's going to give that out. But when you have 20,000 pounds of something, that's a huge number to negotiate with. Like if someone called me today, I would easily give them 10 cents more per pound for 20,000 pounds. Even if I make a little less on the other side, if it was all processed and ready to go, I have no problem taking, that money and giving it to the customer because they have quantity, and quantity has value just like quality has value. So think about those things about holding copper or thinking that you can kind of outsmart the system. Sometimes the systems are in place because that's just how those cards have fallen. There are mills that I deal with regularly that will not take less than 44,000 pounds of one type of material. So if you save 20,000 pounds of Bear Bright, you need to save another 24,000 just to be qualified to enter into that mill. And those are important things to keep in mind, not even including quality control, inspection of the material, refining of the material, lack of payment. These are all things to keep in mind. And when the scale gets to be that big, 44,000 pounds of Bear Bright at, let's just say $3, you're looking at $132,000. And it just changes things when you look at the scale. So those are just things to think about holding it, going against inflationary rates and things like that. Just those are things just to think about, right? But in the last week, that copper market has, of course, been jumping back and forth a little bit. We're seeing more of a down market right now. And the primary reasoning that we saw those markets jumping was really just some news that we saw out of China where they were going to be shutting down one of their large smelting operations. And I talked to someone about this, and it was funny because they said that one of the reasons that the Chinese may be shutting these down is because their labor is no longer as cheap as it used to be. The Chinese were traditionally known for cheap labor, and that cheap labor allowed them to bring in all of this different materials throughout the years, allowed them to create the juggernaut that they are financially. That gave them the ability to start, pushing their price pressures on the world. And now as their labor costs have increased, as their housing costs have increased, that has offset some of these changes. So here you can see, this is the Bear Bright numbers that we've seen over the last week. 355 Rockaway Recycling, 342 River Valley Recycling in Illinois, 345, $3, 358. These are prices in the last few days.
Shopping for Bear Bright.
Yeah, someone may have been shopping in that Illinois area, quoting those prices. But hey, it's good to see that. That's another valid tool for people to know. And Sims in Sparks, Nevada, is getting super aggressive on their Bear Bright for a hot second there. That must have been when the market jumped up. So again, these are great tools for you to use to learn where the prices are and learn where copper is going. I don't think, again, we're going to see much more movement from what we've seen. I know, the other day, copper traded at 372. Now it's trading at 405. So it was up to 415. So that 30, 40 cent uptick, I will be honest with you, and I don't use that phrase lightly, I didn't see that coming. I mean, I was going the other way. I saw copper go into the 340 to 360 trading range. And what I heard is a lot of this is really based on speculation, riding the market. Traders now control more of the market from a trading point of view, opposed to a supply and demand point of view. And that has an impact on prices as well. Here you can see just a general, idea of what's going on with some of the prices from 304 stainless. Well, let's just stop for a second, go up a little bit. I'll touch on stainless. 304 stainless at 31 cents. We have seen about a 7-cent uptick in the past few weeks. You can start to see some prices being reported here in the 40-cent range, with nickel prices increasing to over $17,000 per ton. That has helped. Now, granted, in the last 7 days, we saw nickel prices go down 5.5%, but we still have seen an increase in the 304 market, which is nice to see. If we go back a screen, we'll talk about a couple of other things. Let me just scroll for a little while. Steel prices, we've seen declining. You can see some of these numbers. Let's click on number one steel for a second, just see what we got popping in there. 212 a ton, probably about where we are. You can see some of these prices, 200, 10 cents, 9 cents. These are right along where the industry averages are. So these are prices that are real. I think I'm paying 195 a ton today. So these are numbers that are moving downward. In the last 30, 40 days, we've seen steel prices continuing to dip down. Number one steel, I'm actually at 215. Unprepared, I'm at 195. We've seen steel prices ticking down, right? That's been happening. And we've seen, countries buying material, but particularly shred and light iron prices have decreased the most, with some of the heavier cut grades, the PNSs, the unprepareds, the cast irons, the rotors, maintaining a little more strength. But if you look at shred here, down over 7% month over month, you can start to see these prices being posted here, 7 cents, 125, 120. Big Daddy Scrap, if you're out in Illinois, I've used them before. Excellent company to deal with. 160, 165. These are the ranges. You can see the red in the chart. 7% down, 164. I believe by the end of April, we're going to see that averaging out around 145, 150 after some orders kind of get their way worked out. Now, going into May, going into June, do I see an uptick? Yeah, I do see an uptick happening, $10 to $20 from what I'm hearing, but nothing major, because they're also saying that April could see markets going down even more. So we're watching these steel prices. Economic factors, we saw the consumer price index having a bit of a problem month over month, year over year. We saw an uptick. We saw the inflationary number still high. Today, the Federal Reserve is going to be talking, and I do expect a market reaction, because they're going to be talking about interest rates. Are they going up? Are they going down? So we're going to get some news on that today. That will cause the markets to have some turbulence one way or another. Just the words that Jerome Powell says really have big impacts in the financial world, and that's why we watch for things like this. Let's talk about catalytic converters for a little while. RRCats.com continuing to quote all catalytic converters that are coming in and providing free shipping on OEM catalytic converters. We hold your prices for 10 days and we have those free shipping on OEM. So let's pull up some of these prices, let's click on that national average and just show a little bit of the inconsistencies that we've seen. And then we'll talk about some other metals. National averages have gone up. We've seen some of these prices moving. We saw in the last week, platinum was down 4.5%, palladium was down 5%, but rhodium was up. And if we can go back to that price list, I can tell you some of the areas that we have seen increased prices. The small, medium, and the large foreign cats have had a bit of an uptick, which has been nice to see. Those averages have been ticking up, and we've been quoting some cats over $100 that were in the $80 range. So that's nice to see. Domestically, our domestic markets, not much high grade movement here. When I look at some of these markets for catalytic converters right now, they are reacting and following some other market movements. What do I mean? Copper, for instance. Copper prices went up last week and the week prior. Catalytic converter and precious metals went with it. So now platinum, palladium, and rhodium have seen the same kind of uptick that's been happening. That uptick right, is showing a market movement that is just kind of offsetting any demand that's out there. I'll take care of that after we're done here. So catalytic converters, relatively steady. So we have seen a little bit of an uptick, but check out our rcats.com just to give you an idea on what's going on there. We did just drop a video about rod brass, what it is, the differences on it. Some people have been saying that most scrapyards kind of lump all their brass into one category. Again, that's why iScrap was created, to create more transparency and to teach people about these markets. So learning about rod brass, red brass, yellow brass, faucets, brass radiators, all of these things are on our YouTube channel and inside of our page, and gives you the ability to learn about the prices, learn where they are, and that's going to help you long term really just boost your overall knowledge when it comes to scrap. You know, we have all of these different grades of brass out there, and if your scrapyard isn't separating them, why don't you become a smarter customer by learning more about these things? You can see the video that we're popping up here. You know, this is just talking about the rod brass, and we showed you what to do. We showed you examples. We'll fast forward a bit. You can see different types of brass in the video. So we'll talk about yellow brass, chromed brass, rod brass, what it is, where it comes from. And that's just going to give you a better idea on what to look for and what not to look for, so you can make more money with your brass, your coppers, and everything else. So scrappers, check us out. You know, overall this week, relatively calm-ish. Steel prices down, copper prices still up, but down technically this week. We're still happy with where they are. Aluminum markets even week over week, and stainless has seen a bit of an uptick. But of course, you can always check us out 24/7 on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook, our Instagram. We have lots of tips on there. Go to iScrapApp.com, read a bunch of our blogs, and see other things that we're doing. Let us know if you have any questions. And until next week, I'm Tom.